Let me pray for us real quick and then we'll get started. Holy Spirit, we welcome you. Amen. Anywhere you can get away with a short prayer, it's Young Life, right? So when I was in high school, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, Fremont, California. Great place to grow up. My parents are both ministers, but when I was 15, I went away to boarding school in New Hampshire. And I went to this school that's like really elite and very few people of color. And there I was in New Hampshire. Now most of my classmates had like never seen a black person before, never known a black person before, and somehow I became friends with this one white kid. His name was John. He's from Long Island, the part that and he and I became friends, I think because, I don't even know why we became friends. I think, he liked college basketball and I love college basketball, so we became friends over that. And it became clear to me within a few weeks of knowing him that I was his only black friend, probably his first black friend ever. And I said that to him. I said, John, I think I'm your only black friend. And his response was, that's not true, my name is black. That was his response, and I was like, oh, I'd love to know if she thinks you guys are friends. But it was like, it was a whole new thing for him, right? To be around somewhat diverse people. So anyways, one day, I was hanging out in my dorm with my friend Kai, who was also black. I was friends with all the black people in school. And we were playing ping pong in my dorm, in the common room, and John comes in one day. And I was like, he must have been looking for someone else, but I said, oh, this is John. And I thought, this will be wonderful. I'll introduce John and Kai, and I'll like double John's black friends right in this moment. And so I said, John, meet Kai, Kai, meet John. And Kai said, nice to meet you. And John said, oh, I know you. You're in my math class. And Kai said, no, actually, I'm not in your math class. I'm sorry, but I'm not in your math class. And he said, yes, you are. You're definitely in my math class. And at the school, they use the Socratic method for teaching, so all the classes have like 10 people. So you really should know who's in your class. And they go back and forth for a while, and she says, I'm not in your class. And then finally he says, well, some black girl who looks just like you is in my math class. And we were like, awkward, right? So it turns out we did some investigating. Our friend Addie was in his math class. Addie is black, but otherwise looks nothing like Kai, right? So, interestingly, like we're in this situation where we felt like, wow, like he's not really seeing us. He's not seeing us as individuals. Now, I have had lots of experiences like that. And I obviously had that experience in high school, but I turned around and did that to other people. As soon as I graduated from this high school, which was in New Hampshire, I went to college at Dartmouth in New Hampshire. A lot of New Hampshire in my life. And as soon as I got to college, I was like, wow, there are a lot of white dudes here, and they all look exactly the same. They all play lacrosse. They all listen to the same bands. They all want to be an SAE, like they're the same person. So then I just decided, I'm not going to learn anybody's names. I'm just going to call every white guy random white guy. Okay, and so that's what I did. And like when my movements, like when I start saying things, like they always catch on. I don't know why. So pretty soon, I would just be in dining hall and this girl was like, yeah, this random white guy in my math class today said this thing, And so people started hearing that. Now, again, not seeing people for who they are, right? I had experienced that, and then I turned around and did it to other people. And by the time I got to grad school, God finally got a hold of my heart, and it became clear to me that this is not honoring, right? It's not honoring to call people random white guys. I had my come to Jesus moment. I repented, and I started learning people's names. And I was in Santa Barbara at the time. That's where I did my PhD. Still lots of white guys, different kind of white guys, but they're all kind of the same, right? But I was learning each of their names, right? You serve that kind of board, you serve that kind of board guy, right? So I was seeing people as individuals. Now I was hanging out with some of my friends in Boston from college. And one of my friends referred to a guy at work, this random white guy at my job, and I was like, hey, white guys are people too. This whole lecture of why she couldn't do that. And she was like, wait a second, you coined the term. And I it's like that awkward moment when your like previous social movement directly undermines your current social movement. You know, you're like, so I share this with you because I think it's important to be honest with ourselves. And Tim did such a wonderful job sharing about how Jesus invites us into his compassion for people. We get to participate in that if we choose to. But it's really hard to be compassionate if you actually don't see people. It's really easy to be compassionate with people who are like us. We have a natural affinity. We get their problems. We get their anxieties. We get their pain. We get their fear. And it makes sense to us, and so it's legitimate to us. If I can understand your pain, then your pain is legitimate to me.
Wow.
But if I can't understand it, if I've decided that you're just one monolithic group, like I don't see you as an individual, I don't see you as a human being, I see you as a category, or I see you as a project, then how can I possibly enter into your suffering? How can I possibly participate in the compassion that God has for you? You know, this idea that we perceive people as all the same, it's called outgroup homogeneity. I'm a social psychologist, so I'm going to write this down. Outgroup homogeneity, right? This is a term that you can lay on your friends. Now, it's this idea that once we create divisions between us and them, once we decide there is an us, and the us is people who are similar to us, people who are like me, a part of my us, now there's automatically a them, and that's everyone who's different than me. And as soon as I make that categorical distinction, I'm automatically going to perceive them as all the same. Outgroup homogeneity. They are all the same. So what my friend John did to us as black women, and then what I turned around and did to all the white guys at Dartmouth and all the white guys in Santa Barbara, that's just a natural process of categorizing. We don't mean to do it, it's just the way our brains are wired. And so we can easily fall into this where it's they are all the same. In fact, one of my favorite things in the world is this website called Stuff White People Like. This has gotten me through some dark days, it really has. And the reason why I bring this up is because this plays on outgroup homogeneity, right? Whoever wrote this, it's a white guy actually, he's really using this idea that they are all the same is something that we easily fall into. And so he's a white guy writing to people of color, supposedly, ostensibly, right? It's like kind of tongue-in-cheek. And the idea is that if you're a person of color and you want to get in good with white people, you just have to mention the things on this list. Because he's made a whole list of things that white people like. Okay. Now, the list is great, right? It's like assists in basketball. Like white people love assists, right? Their parents don't belong to, white people like religions their parents don't belong to, white people like microbreweries, stuff like that. So one of the things that I think is hilarious, and I actually put a little excerpt in my book, this one that I'll read to you, is white people like outdoor performance clothes. Like, you know how white people are always wearing like a North Face jacket even when they're not climbing a mountain? That's what he's talking about. So he says, this is what he says about why white people like outdoor performance clothes. The main reason why white people like these clothes is that it allows them to believe that at any moment they can find themselves with a Thule rack on top of their car headed to a national park. It could be 4 p.m. on a Saturday night when they might get a call. Hey man, you know what we need to do? Kayak, then camping right now. I'm on my way to get you, there's no time to change clothes. Though it is unlikely that they will receive this call, white people hate the idea of missing an opportunity to enjoy outdoor activities because they weren't wearing the right clothes. If you plan on spending spending part of your weekend with a white person, it is strongly recommended that you purchase a jacket or some sort of high-performance t-shirt, which is just a regular shirt but a lot more expensive. The funny thing about this is I was talking about this with one of my friends who's actually a white dude who's on Young Life staff in the Seattle area, and when I was reading it to him, I mispronounced Thule, and I said thule wrap, not a Thule wrap, but a thule wrap, and he was like, what? You're mispronouncing it, it's Thule, and I was like, see, white. Like, I didn't know that because I'm not white, but you knew that, right? So, I mean, it's just so interesting how we quickly categorize, right? And this is brilliant, right? What this guy who's writing it is doing is brilliant because he's writing this to people of color. And so if you're seeing white people as them, which people of color would, then you can see that list and be like, yup, that's exactly how all white people are, right? But if you're white, you can read through the list and you can say, well, hey, not all white people are like that. I know some, right? Touche, of course, not all white people are like that. That's how out-group homogeneity works. They are all the same, but we are all unique and varied. Because we interact with we, right? So I know all the different types of people who are part of my us, my we, right? I know that there are distinct opinions. I know all black people are not the same. I know all female black people are not the same. I know all educated female black people are not the same because I interact with all the different varieties. But when someone's part of your them, then that person becomes the one that you say everyone is like. And it goes beyond just misperceptions. It goes beyond, mixing people up, which I think is actually pretty dishonoring to the image of God in people. But it can become even more hurtful and painful. For my work, I get to go all over the place and help different Christian organizations get better at loving people well, particularly people who are different than them, and honoring the image of God in people who are different than them. And a college president of a Christian college called me in because they were having a really hard time retaining people of color in their in the institution. So students, faculty, staff, they'd come for like a year and be like, I'm kind of over this. Like, I just don't feel like I'm actually part of this. I don't feel embraced here. And so the president said, we need your help. Can you please help us come figure out, some sort of diversity initiative? So I did. So I went and I hung out with the president and the whole board of this school. The board of trustees, all white men. I was like, that's part of the problem. But we all met together and they said, let's come up with a plan. And I said, sure, but I'd love to talk with the people of color who've been involved in your organization. Before we come up with some sort of diversity initiative, it'd be helpful to know what exactly is going on, what the issues are. And so they said, go ahead and come up with a plan and how you would reach out to all these different alums and former faculty, etc. And so I did. I came up with a plan, and the president looked it over and he said, this is a great plan. I said, thank you. And he said, but it looks like it'll take a lot of resources and time to go and track down all these people and hear their stories and get a sense of what their experience has been like. And he was like, we could do that. Or I could probably just tell you why people of color haven't really engaged with our organization long term. And I said, okay, so let me get this straight. You're the white male president of an organization that admittedly has a diversity problem. And he said, yes. And I said, and you think you can fix the diversity problem without actual input from diverse people? And he was like, well, when you put it that way, it sounds really bad. I was like, because it is. Like, this is horrible, right? And what's interesting is this is a good guy, right? He loves Jesus. He loves people. He wants everyone to feel like they're included. But he had engaged in out-group homogeneity. As we got talking, it became really clear. They are all the same. It's just another way of saying they don't bring a lot of richness and variability to the table. We don't really need them. Or maybe we need one, a token. As long as we can get one at the table, And maybe that'll be enough. And so without even knowing it, he had completely erased all of the richness, the diversity, the variability that people of color at his institution brought to the table. He had just basically said, we don't need that. They don't offer us much. We can do it on our own. And I'm reminded of Matthew 12, where Jesus makes it so clear that if our understanding of us, if our understanding of family, if our understanding of we is based on this world's definitions, we're in trouble. We're missing out on what Jesus really offers. Jesus was hanging out, speaking, and some folks came to him and said, hey, your mother and your brothers and your sisters, your family are here. And Jesus' response was, who is my mother? Who is my kin? Anyone who follows the will of God is my sister and my brother and my mother. And there Jesus is not saying family doesn't matter. Jesus is not saying that the way that the world defines we for us doesn't matter. But what Jesus was saying was be careful. Because that's not what ultimately matters. Jesus is relativizing our categories. And beyond simply misperceiving each other, beyond simply seeing them as all the same, it quickly gets darker. And this is what I think is so important for us in this division, those of us who feel called to ministry, those of us who feel called to compassion. Not only do we decide very quickly that they are all the same and that perhaps they don't really bring a lot of richness and variability to what we're trying to do. Maybe it's easy for us to say, we don't really need a club that's diverse. We don't really need campaigners that's diverse. We're okay on our own. But it gets even much deeper than that, because in our culture, the way that we define us and them is not just we are different than them, it's often we are better than them. And that's because our group memberships are so closely aligned with our self-esteem, and we want to feel good about ourselves. And the best way to feel good about ourselves is to say we're a little bit better than them. And our culture gives us so much freedom to do this. Our culture gives us categories that are laden with value judgments. They are dangerous. They are stupid. They are lazy. My brother just graduated last May from Yale Divinity School. We're all very proud of him. He's awesome. He's my big brother, but I'm kind of big sister in the family. And he was telling me that last year alone, living in New Haven, Connecticut, which is in your division, he lives 1.5 blocks from the Divinity School. Last year alone, he got stopped by the police in New Haven 4 times, simply for being a black man, walking home from his class on theology or New Testament, but he was automatically perceived as dangerous. Because that's the category that our society has given many black men. And when I told him about some research that I had recently read about how the average person in America automatically perceives white men as safe and black men as dangerous, it's an automatic association that many of us carry. He laughed with the saddest, most painful laugh. He said, why would anyone even bother doing that research? Anyone who knows a black man knows that we're perceived as dangerous first. We're perceived as threatening before anything else. My brother, who was training to be a minister, experienced that multiple times. And these sort of categories that we just inherit, like we inherit them, learning about them from the media. We learn about them from family members. We even learn about them in church. When your Jesus is white, it's hard not to associate whiteness with goodness and blackness with the opposite of goodness. When your precious, holy, spotless Lamb of God is white. Like we hear this from our pulpits, these categories, these us and them. How can we possibly do ministry to those who are different than us if we're carrying these categories? This is how we see the world. So it's time to be honest. It's time to come clean. It's time for me to come clean and say, I was perceiving all white guys as one way. Maybe it's time for us to keep coming clean in how we perceive others. And we often think that this is just an urban issue. But some wonderful research that was just recently published looked at every single space in the United States over 30 years and to see how it changed. Urban spaces, suburban spaces, and rural spaces. And in 1980, the year I was born, if you were in the United States, you could pretty much go 2/3 of the spaces in the United States were basically all white in 1980. And so you could go about your entire life and only encounter white people for the most part. But over the course of 30 years, every single space in the United States, rural, urban, and suburban, all significantly increased so that now less than 1/3 of all spaces in the United States are even predominantly white. And if you look at birth rates, if you look at the fact that the global south is moving to the United States, no matter where you live, you have an opportunity to practice compassion, to participate in the compassion of Jesus with people who are different than you. No one's off the hook here. And that's a good thing, because Jesus is inviting us to see our families, to see our us differently than the way the world teaches us to see family, to see our us. And Jesus is saying, you can either choose that, you can choose fear, you can choose they are all the same, you can choose I want to stick to people who are just like myself. Or you can be invited into what Jesus came to do. And I love how Jesus was the first cross-cultural missionary, the first cross-cultural pastor, the first cross-cultural everything. The incarnation was the first cross-cultural mission. And Jesus left his perfect little holy huddle with the Trinity, where everyone got along even though they were different, and he didn't have to deal with human things like gas and puberty and all that stuff. Jesus came to be with us. And so when I'm sitting on my couch wondering if I should go hang out with my Hmong neighbors who speak a different language and don't laugh at any of my jokes and eat different food, I can, if I tune into the Holy Spirit, we cross metaphysical planes to come be with you. You can get up off your couch and go be with people that I also came for. That's the invitation. But it starts, I think, for me at least, it starts with how do I see people? How do I see people? What are the categories that I have inherited? What are the categories that I have been taught? What are the categories that I'm afraid to even really look into? And something that's so great about this is we can do this in fellowship with our friends. Because who can tell you what categories you have? People outside your category. They're the ones who say, hey, when you just said they all, that was kind of hurtful. When you just expressed fear or you just made an assumption about that group, I wondered what was really beneath that. What was under that? So I now have a bunch of my friends who we kind of get together and we talk about these things and we point out some of our blind spots so that we can keep growing. One of the things I love the most about Young Life, and I'm going to close with this, is that we have really an opportunity, and I've been a Young Life volunteer for about 10 years, and we have a wonderful opportunity to introduce kids to the same Jesus who crossed metaphysical planes to come be with us. And that's a Jesus who sees every kid. That's a Jesus who doesn't rely on categories. That's a Jesus who actually was actively working to dismantle categories in his own ministry here on earth. I mean, isn't that what the Good Samaritan story is all about? Saying, stop looking at the Samaritans as bad people. Stop relying on the way that you've been taught to think about Samaritans. And wouldn't it be wonderful if kids were discipled into and invited into a faith where seeing people for who they really were was a part of the gospel. And we didn't have to, 10 years after they've been Christian, dismantle all the preconceived notions that they've built up even in the church. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could start by talking about that now? So that's what I want to encourage you all to do in your own hearts and in your work with kids. Let me pray for us. God, I thank you for the fact that you are diverse within yourself. I thank you for the uniqueness of each member of the Trinity and how you all are interdependent and different yet one. May we be the same.